Hey, as you're coming in, please sit with your societies. Freshmen, if you'll sit together with your societies, and let's get on ourselves in groups now, okay? You're sitting in societies. Oh, girls, I hate to interrupt over there. Don't interrupt them, all right, please, if that be possible, okay? Why would we do that, right? All right, hey, make sure you're sitting in your societies, please. Sit in your groups of freshmen, sophomores together, juniors together. Seniors, you can intersperse amongst them, that's fine, all right? But freshmen together, sophomores together, juniors together. You're looking at some vintage Spirit Week stuff, all right? From way back, way back. That's John Heim. That is old. This is quite a throwback to way back, all right? And we may have to actually put this on a pause for right now so we can get things going. But this is our Spirit Week from what? Probably about 2010, okay? So that's about 11 years ago, all right? That is awesome, okay? So some of those people that you saw there that you were wondering what teacher that is, like that was Mr. Johns, all right? I didn't know if you knew that, all right? That was, okay, all right, yes, all right? So anyway, that's back when our teachers were a little bit younger, and we'll put it that way, and that's a polite way to say that. Hey, alumni, we are so glad you're with us here this morning. We're blessed to have you. We are, today, young people have an Alumni Chapel, and we're going to take some time just to share a little bit about some of the prayer requests that we might even have this year. I want to talk briefly here about a couple of our alumni that are struggling right now. And so if you could remember to pray for them. One is Abby Heim Dixon, and she's in the hospital struggling with COVID. She just had her baby boy, healthy baby boy. She is slowly coming out of the woods, all right, we'll put it that way. But she is still in the hospital and I think is in ICU. And so if you remember to pray for her, that the Lord would just heal her. And I know that they would appreciate that very much. The other one is Macy Fox. Macy's boyfriend passed away from COVID. And so I know she's going through a really deep struggle right now. So if you could remember to keep those people in your prayers. I know a lot of us have family members or people that are close to us that may have been touched just by the COVID virus of things that have gone on in our world today. And that's difficult for all of us. And yet we look forward to a new heaven and a new earth one day when Jesus Christ comes again and makes all things new. That's our hope, which is what we do have. But until then, we weep with those who weep, and we want to do that at the same time. So we want to keep those folks in our prayers. I'd like to open up our chapel here this morning with a word of prayer, and then afterwards I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Grass and to our alumni, and I know we've got a panel there that'll just kind of share some of their wisdom that they've gained over the years and just share some of the blessings that they may have received as well. So let's bow for a word of prayer. Father, we come to you and we acknowledge that you're sovereign, you're the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. You're with us here again today. You'll be with us tomorrow. Thank you so much for what you've given us in your Son, Jesus Christ, because with him we have hope, we have redemption. And so, Lord, today, as we just celebrate many of our alumni that are here, and a special day with our Eagle Golf Scramble, things that we're actually have planned, Lord, may it all honor and please you. We thank you for the school that you've given us. We thank you that we could have any school, but we really want this school to honor and please you. Our goal is that young people would follow Jesus Christ throughout their lives. And so, Lord, will you please continue to honor that mission as long as Faith Christian School is on the face of this earth. Lord, we think of a couple of our alumni right now that are struggling and have heavy hearts. I think of Macy right now and the grief that she is going through. Will you encourage her heart? Will you bless even in the family situations there? Will you give them your comfort and your peace? Thank you for what we have to look forward to, that this world, on this world, it's not the only hope. Our hope is in what you bring us through Jesus Christ in a new heaven and a new earth. We also think of Abby, and right now as she's still in ICU and she's still struggling, would you bring healing to her? Would you bring also encouragement and comfort to the family? Thank you for blessing them with a healthy baby boy, but Lord, please undertake in this particular situation. Please bring her healing as well. Thank you again for bringing our alumni here today. Thank you for the opportunity of this particular chapel. Lord, may we rejoice in the good gifts you give us, and this gift that you've given us here as far as this school is concerned. And most of all, the greatest gift of all, Jesus Christ, your Son. In his name, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Hoissinger. 25 years ago, we started Faith Christian School just with the high school, 9th grade through 12th grade, and we were able to have 45 young people that first year. And when we had chapel, a lot of times we would have chapel actually where the tables are stored. That room was the chapel room, okay? So that room was opened up, and so band and choir met in the table storage room now, and we had chapel in there too, okay? And we had one lunch, okay, because we just had 45 students here. And so this year, the Lord has allowed us to have 670 students, kindergarten through 12th, and we're really, really excited about that. And I have said this publicly, so I'll say it to you. I believe that the Lord has allowed us to have the best 9th through 12th grade ever in our history collectively. And I don't say that in any proud way, but I'm just so thankful for the heritage that our alumni have helped establish here at Faith Christian School to allow this to be possible. Okay, so it's a little emotional today because just thinking of 25 years, where we started and where we are right now, and the faithfulness that God has given to us. Pretty amazing, pretty cool. And so today's our first ever Alumni Day. We're excited for the alumni that have been able to be here. We fed them breakfast and just shared a little bit of some of the things that are going on. But we also want them to share a little bit of their story so you can learn, because not too long ago, for most of them, they were in your shoes right now. And so I think that there's some valuable lessons that you can learn. I'm going to introduce two of our staff alumni, okay? Mr. Brownfield and Miss Haney. They're going to come up, share a testimony. Then the Faith Chorale's going to sing, all right? And after the chorale sings, then we're going to have our alumni group come on up for a panel discussion. So, Miss Haney, Mr. Brownfield, who's going first? Miss Haney?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Back in the dark ages of January of 2006, I moved to Lafayette, Indiana with my family, and it was the middle of my sophomore year of high school. And I came to Faith Christian School from a high school that had 25 kids. So it was a big adjustment for me. But one of the things that sticks out to me when I think about my high school days is even though I was coming from a high school that had 25 and I came to this school that obviously has much more than 25, it still kind of felt like a family. So when I was in high school, I got here. It was the middle of the year, obviously. I came to the first day of school, and that night I went to Walmart with my mom. And when I was in the Walmart checkout line getting school supplies, one of the senior girls from Faith Christian School, Jenny Bosma, actually saw me. She probably doesn't remember this. She saw me in the Walmart checkout line, and she walked up to me and she said, "Hey, you came to Faith today. Aren't you one of the new students?" And I said, "Yeah." And we had a conversation. And, that was probably a really small interaction for her. But for me, it made me feel like I was welcome. And later that week, another senior girl, Rebecca Thomas, invited me over to her house. And then the next week, Lindsay Grass, actually Mr. Grass's daughter, invited me over, and I could give story after story about how people reached out to me. When I was a sophomore, I'm talking about even senior girls, to a new girl that was here randomly in the middle of school year. And now when I look at that, just this past summer, I spent 6 weeks in Costa Rica with who? With whom? With one of my friends from high school, Hannah Starrett. And when I think about right now, Mr. Hoisinger shared about Abby Heim was going through her GoFundMe page because they're raising funds to cover her COVID costs. And just person after person after person that was from those high school days when Abby was here. It's just incredible to see people that I know weren't even necessarily closely connected to her, but they're just willing to give because they feel like it's a part of the FCS family. Next month, I have the privilege of traveling with the Chorale, previously known as FMT, to visit one of my former co-FMT members, Carrie Dutton. And so really just reflecting on the fact that back then, for me, coming from a tiny school to what was a big school that felt like family and that still feels like family. Something else that really stands out to me is because of the differences between when I was in high school and now, we actually used to meet in the gym every morning for announcements and a little assembly. And we would do lots of interesting things like listen to announcements. And we would also just lovingly submit to our favorite part of the day, the dress check tunnel. So make sure you ask someone about that. But one thing that, I just brought back some trauma for some people. But one of the things that we used to do is we used to recite our school theme verse all together. And I don't remember which year it was. It was my junior year or my senior year. It was Philippians 3:14. Philippians 3:14 says, "I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." And we would say that every day together. And I would just think, man, how is that going to affect my life, And so as a high schooler, it affected my life in a lot of different ways. That meant faithfulness of thinking about that upward call, right? So in academics, doing my very best in academics, or in my relationship with my family, or in working. A lot of you know that I worked at Chick-fil-A in high school, right? Or in serving at church. Faithfulness was impacted. I was encouraged to be faithful as a result of just reciting that verse every day. And now, how does that affect me? You know, if you walk into my classroom upstairs at 203, you'll see a beautifully scripted verse that Dr. Heim did for us this summer. And the one that I chose was Ephesians 5:15 and 16. And that says something like, look carefully how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of your time. And I really think that relates Ephesians 5:15 and 16 back to Philippians 3:14 from my high school days, because I'm thinking, how do I walk? Am I walking with wisdom? Am I making the best use of my time? Am I being faithful? Or am I walking as unwise? And so I just love to think about, I was walking through those high school hallways in 2006, 2007, and then graduated in 2008. And now I have had the privilege of teaching here for 9 years, which is insane. And I think, am I still being faithful? And I'm just really thankful to have the opportunity to work alongside some of the people that were my greatest influences and my greatest mentors and that are now some of my best friends. So, am I making the best use of my time? I would encourage you to think about that, high schoolers and alumni that are visiting with us. But also, for me, I think right now making the best use of my time is right here in the hallways of FCS, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity.
All right, so some of you know me because I was your teacher last year, and some of you don't know who I am at all. I'm Justin Brownfield, Mr. Brownfield. I teach in the middle school, and I teach math, okay? So I graduated in 2006, and I think, is that the largest represented group here today? It is, okay, so we're the important ones. No, and the humble ones, that's right, no. I graduated in 2006. I went to Purdue University. I got a degree in education. I taught here for 3 years, teaching 5th and 6th grade in the elementary. At that time, 6th grade was part of the elementary. And then I went and did social work for a number of years, and now I'm back. So this is actually my 5th year at Faith, and I am in the middle school. So Mr. Grass asked us to reflect back upon our time here at Faith and what sticks out. And I did not talk to Miss Haney, and I was just thinking, I wonder if we're both going to say the same thing. And what's interesting is we both kind of said the same thing. She was talking about relationships with other students. Mine that stuck out to me is the relationship I had with teachers. And then there's also this question, where do you get your comfort from? Where do you get your comfort from? So as I look back on the high school years, there was many ups and downs in my life, including some challenges in my home situation. And I remember times that I would come to school with anything but school on my mind. Can anyone relate to that? There's stuff going on, stuff that's on your mind, and you're not really coming to school just with school at the forefront of what you're thinking about because there's other stuff bugging you. And what sticks out to me is names like Mr. Heim. Mr. Heim, that's actually Abby Heim's father. He was the music teacher here. He was my choir teacher, my band teacher, and now what's the chorale? It was called Faith Ministry Team. Mrs. Sutherland, she taught English here. She also taught drama and speech. She was my speech teacher. And Mrs. Borgman, she still teaches what she taught then. So I think you guys know who she is. Here's the thing they did. They got to know me regularly and ask about my life. They got to, they invested in getting to know Justin, not just, I wasn't just another student. They pointed me to the great comforter. 2 Corinthians 1:3 says, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort. Why? Because he comforts us in our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. See, I wasn't just learning about that truth that our Heavenly Father is the God of all comfort. I was also getting to see an example of it in the teachers I interacted with. I saw it firsthand in their daily lives. I learned from their willingness to share about their walk with God. I was able to hear truth about what they were learning in their personal Bible study. When I think about Mrs. Borgman, I remember a time that she shared regularly about the fact that she was reading the Psalms because she knew she needed the encouragement that was found in Psalms. And that's where I learned that. Mr. Heim was sharing stories about his life and how he sought to live out the truth found in the Bible curriculum we were going through in Faith Ministry Team. And Mrs. Sutherland, she would start each speech class with like a little devotional and encourage us back to Christ and to use that class time for Christ's honor and glory. So now here I am 15 years later, and I can tell you, I've walked many roads that weren't always the easiest or the most enjoyable. Times where I had to figure out where my comfort was going to be. And I can tell you this, when I think about where am I going to get my comfort, I think back to those teachers. And I think back to my time here at Faith Christian School. And I praise God for the lessons that I learned as a student that now I get to apply as an adult and as a teacher.
Thank you so much, Justin and Noel. Faith Corral, I think you're up. You're just coming up, Mr. Wright, is that right? How you roll? Okay. Chop, chop. Great job. Thank you so much, Faith Corral. Good job. I think that was their first time. Is that right, Mr. Right? So it was a good run through, right? They did a great job. Thank you so much. Hey, we have some special guests, so I'm going to ask some of them to come on up. And if you guys can, feel free to move the chairs up a little bit. This is our illustrious alumni panel. So come on up. Come on up. Come on up. We're putting them on the spot. Good job. So can you guys just pull the chairs up a little bit? James, where did you say the mics were? Where? Oh, sorry. Isn't this a great looking group of young people up here? Can we still call you young people, right? We can still call you. It's a good compliment, right? Way to go. All right. So I'm so excited because there's just a really, really great range of ages and experience and maturity and insight and wisdom. Can you just see wisdom flowing out of their brains up there? And pretty soon this is going to be you, right? Pretty soon this is going to be you. All right, you're like, oh no, it is, all right? So, four of these people up here, I'm gonna lift. Four of these people up here were not planning to be up here about 20 minutes ago. We had 5 people assigned for the panel. 3 of them were not able to show up today. So, in true FCS fashion, I said, hey, I need help. Who's going to step in? And nobody volunteered, so we just, you did a good job volunteering. Good job. So, I really appreciate their willingness to help, because I think this is going to be some fun, okay? I'm a little nervous because they have microphones, and I'm going to ask them questions, and then they can share whatever they want. So, I'm trusting you guys. Brittany, I'm trusting you, right? So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I appreciate them being here. We're not going to be here a long time, but I think this is going to be valuable for you because you just have an opportunity to hear different insights and different experiences. And I appreciated what Mr. Brownfield and Miss Haney shared because I wasn't aware of some of that stuff, right? Just different perspectives. And I can learn from that, and hopefully you can learn from some of that. So I have some questions that I'm going to ask. Not all of them are going to be able to answer all of the questions, but we'll try to do our very, very best. So first thing we'll start with Luke, and I want you to give your first and last name, kind of what you're doing right now, what year you graduated from Faith Christian School, and then we'll just pass your microphone down the line.
Okay. I'm Luke Helmer, class of 06. I almost wrote 2016 when I filled out my thing. I nearly lost a decade.
Yeah.
Mercy. What was the second thing?
What
am I doing? I work for a bank. If you've ever seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life, it's literally the kind of bank legally that George Bailey owns. So it's a really nice bank. That's what I'm doing now.
It's now a bad time to tell you I got a C in public speaking.
No, because it's not going to help you.
All right. So my name is Jeff Chilcot. I graduated in 2016. I recently graduated from Indiana University Kokomo, and right now I work for a company called Altardamus, and we primarily do background checks for investors, making sure we don't have any North Korean gun salesmen coming in or anything like that.
Good to know.
I'm Tirza Burke. I graduated in the class of 2006 with Luke and Justin. And I stay at home with my 4 kids and help my husband with ministry. But I was teaching at Ivy Tech Community College. I taught anatomy, physiology, and biology. But now I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Way to go.
I'm Brittany Bristow. I graduated in 2005. I'm the oldest one up here. I am married. I have 2 kids. I stay home and homeschool both of them, 2 little girls. I was teaching. I taught elementary school for about 9 years, and then recently decided to stay home and homeschool.
Great.
My name is Caleb Starr. I was here in 2011 when I graduated in 2011. I'm still in graduate school. I'm going to be finishing up in the next year. at IU getting my PhD in biochemistry. And I'm joined by my wife and son back there, Ashley and Benaiah.
And Caleb sang bass, right?
I was bass in FMT and choir, yes.
I know that's a shock.
Super obvious. Okay, so my name is Bill, and I graduated in 2013, went to Purdue, got an IT degree, and now I'm a software developer because those are related somehow.
Very cool. All right, so that's our illustrious panel, okay? So a lot of great experiences. All right, so Bill, we're going to ask you the first question. And so I'm going to ask this question to Bill, Brittany, and Jeff, okay? What was your favorite memory of high school at Faith Christian School that you're willing to share?
Okay, fortunately...
That won't get you arrested.
Okay, fortunately, J-term is a thing, so I can use that as my cop-out answer. The first year we did J-term, it was super cool having I think it was 2 weeks, and then later on it dropped down to 8 days. Is that still how it works?
Now it's a week.
Now it's just a week. Okay. Yep. So at first it was 2 weeks, which is really cool. I did a Lego robotics thing with Levi Sterrett's dad, or whatever. So you kind of programmed Lego robots to kind of fight in a sumo ring. And that was really cool. And then I think after that was archery with one of the teachers. I think it was Mrs. Hoisinger, but I don't remember exactly. So yeah, but that was just super cool, and probably wouldn't be able to do that at any other school. So that was a peak.
I had a hard time with this question because a lot of my favorite memories are not memories I should probably share, or that people would want me to share. Probably Mr. Johns' really cool outlines from world history. That would be my. Remember all the interesting facts. No, that's not it. My senior year, it was my class. And my class was really fun. We had a really great senior class. And it was our senior year, we just suddenly remembered or realized we're not going to be together after this year. And we were really sad about that. And so we spent every weekend, all weekend together every year, or every weekend. And so we went to every game, my best friend and I, who's still my best friend. I just talked to her on the way here. We went to every single boys basketball game that year. We drove to every single game. And that's probably my favorite memory, just driving to all of the games. It didn't matter if it was snowing, we drove. We went, I had a little Ford Escort station wagon, and we would drive to every game. And then after the games, we would go to Matt Minema, who I guess I'm replacing today. We would usually go to his house and hang out in his basement, and stay there, and we'd stay till 2 o'clock in the morning, and we all would just hang out and watch movies. That's probably my favorite memory.
Cool.
So I would say some of my favorite memories come from the athletics that I did here at Faith. I actually did a whole lot of sports, probably a single sport every single season. But I would say probably one of my favorite memories was my senior year. I was on the bowling team here, and I know we used to have a bowling team. And we were really bad. And one of my favorite memories was we weren't a full team. Every team has 5 bowlers on it, and it's just total pinfall after that to see which team will win. There's only 4 bowlers on our team, and we were playing against Rossville, and they only had 2 bowlers, but their 2 bowlers were really, really good. And now I averaged about 205 when I was in my senior year, and I threw up a 225 that game. My opponent bowled a 205, and then the other girl bowled 240, and she beat the other 3 bowlers and me. So we lost to 2 players. And it's just, I just, it's so funny to me, and I just laughed at the time, and it was one of my favorite memories.
There you go. There you go. So I was sharing with the alumni out at breakfast, there are certain classes that always tend to stick out. And I told Brittany, she graduated in 2005, there are specific rules written in our handbook because of their class. True story, true story. And so some of these people up here are a little bitter right now looking at you because of your dress code, okay? Because the dress code wasn't always like it is right now, okay? So, especially the guys, I know they had ties for, right? You guys wore ties for chapel dress, is that right?
When I was on FMT, I hornsmoggled my way and I can't sing, but we had suits that we had to wear.
Nice. You guys still wear suits sometimes, right? Yeah, they still.
I saw someone without a belt. I almost fell over.
Y'all sense bitterness, don't you? Just a lot of bitterness flowing out. Some of our students are like, what are they talking about, right? Yeah, so the first couple of years when we did J-term, it was for 2 weeks. And that was a lot of fun. It was also a lot of work, but 2-week J-term. And some of these guys also participated in senior trips. Most of you guys did, all of you maybe. The school year, okay? 2 weeks to North Carolina and Washington, D.C., okay? And when we were in Washington, D.C., we were in hotels. And Mr. Bolander and I spent many an evening in the hallway while everybody else was sleeping, okay? And it was very funny hearing the doors open and seeing heads pop out looking at me. And I'm like, get back in there and go to bed, right? And I think, Brittany, I think I got this right, that we were coming back from the Fourth Falls, and you yelled at Miss Weeby.
I yelled at Mr. B.
At Mr. B.
I didn't yell at Miss B. I wouldn't yell at her.
Okay, but you did yell at Mr. B.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I hated that. I was just thinking about that the other day. I went hiking, and I was like, oh, I remember Fourth Falls. I hated that so much.
I was like, wow, she is really animated, right? Yeah, that was great. That was great. Okay, so we're going to do Luke, Tirza, and Caleb on this question. In reflecting back on high school, were there any specific areas that you saw the Lord working in your heart and life, and what was the result?
So we came here in 2007. Actually, I started here the same year that Mr. Horsinger started. He was my soccer coach. Good times. But me and my family moved here from Africa. My parents were missionaries on the mission field, and we were originally not planning on staying here for more than a year, but after about 6 months, those plans changed, and so my family's been here ever since. And so I was a weird MK from Africa that kind of stuck out, and I didn't really know anybody. I had no idea what faith was. And I had just planned on like sticking it out for a year and then going back to my home. But over the course of that year and then the resulting 3 years, I really, God really helped me to find a home here. And through my church and through faith and all the things I was in here at FCS, just changing my heart and seeing that my identity had been in like being a missionary kid and being from Africa and all these things. And that really wasn't what my identity should be in. It should be in Christ, and relying on Him for providing for me and my family. And so over those years, God changed me and helped me to grow and to learn lots of things. And everything I'm doing now is a direct result of the things I learned and did here at Faith. So I'm very thankful for God for that.
When I was in high school, I did not really love the Lord. I was very much just following the rules and trying to be a good student, and I was just very motivated by what would just make me happy. And honestly, I just didn't really care about the truth my teachers were teaching me at that time. And so when I think about my high school experience, I just really see that there was just so much graciousness and kindness toward me when I was just self-centered and just selfish. And one memory I wanted to share is that I remember being a senior, and in the spring, maybe you guys still do this here, but you know how the public schools have homecoming? Well, Faith Christian School, we had a Virtuous Woman Week where I'm trying to teach people, right, that instead of looking at the outward appearance and popularity, teaching us to think about the characters of the heart. Well, I was not on the list of the possible virtuous women because I was not. I was self-centered and very full of myself. So I remember sitting right where I was in chapel, and we had a little forum, and we were voting for who was the girl we thought should be the winner of the Virtuous Woman. And I wrote some snarky little, kind of very self-loving comment of like, I do not agree with the principles of this competition, blah, 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 blah. And I sent that in. And then I remember getting a message later that, oh, Mrs. Borgman would like to talk with you. So I was thinking in my head, obviously, of what was going to be the speech for Mrs. Borgman. She's here shaking her head. And what I deserved was someone to say, this is not about you, Tirza. This is about the women who love the Lord, and, probably being called out on the fact that I was just here for myself and pleasing myself in high school. And, a little speech about how the goal of this is to help people think about not the external appearance, but to think about the heart. So I was really prepared, right? I'm going to the principal's office almost, and I'm going to get, in big trouble here and a heart check. And I just remember Mrs. Borgman was so gracious to me. And I don't remember everything she said, but I just remember that she was just reaching beyond that in her comments toward me and just really finding a personal connection in a way that was just not what I deserved at all. So when I think about a lot of my high school experience, I think of what I deserved and just how selfish and self-centered I was, and how there were so many gracious experiences I had, and that was one example.
I think for me, I just look back on my whole high school experience as just a gift. I just had more fun than a human being should be allowed to have those 4 years. I don't know why, and I'm such a dork. Like I could just tell stories for like an hour up here and put you all to sleep of the silly and sad things that happened. But I just had a ball. And so to this day, my wife looks at me and she goes, "Is it as fun as high school?" So she'll say that to me sometimes, and I'll be like, "Nope." So I'm just a grade A dork. I just loved every minute of it.
Thanks for sharing all that perspective. I'm going to leave this one open, whoever wants to answer this question, okay? What was the most difficult thing that you faced during your high school years? Anyone want to share that?
I remember writing a research paper in a science class and thinking, this is the hardest thing that I've ever done, and the expectations are so unreasonable. And I went into science, and I want to just explain that I was really well prepared for my career, and I actually published a paper in a very small academic journal in 2019. And I would say the foundation that I got at this school, in particular in English and in science and in math and all the skills you have to be able to be a scientist in a specific field, to publish a paper and make presentations at conferences, I really feel that I was well prepared. And the things that felt like, they were the hardest part of my life they did well prepare me for my future.
I already touched on this briefly, but over the course of my high school career, I had to adjust to actually living in the States. And it was hard for me. It was hard for my family. I have two younger siblings who also attended Faith and graduated from Faith. And just, our entire lives were upended and completely changed because we went from living overseas to living here, and all these new classes and people and things to do and sports and science and all these things. but it really was the teachers and the students in my class and other friends that I made that helped me get through that time and help my siblings and my family get through that time where we had to just change our entire lives and adjust to living in the States, which is a lot different than living in Africa. But I'm so thankful that it happened to us and it happened to us here because it was really good for us.
I was just going to say Mrs. Borgman's senior thesis was the hardest assignment for sure. I just remember in her class, I felt like I spent more time on just her class and her stuff than I did on all the other classes because I wanted to be so good. And then I didn't do well on the senior thesis anyways. So.
Anyone else want to share?
Sure, but
Bill?
I want to be like, how deep can I go with this? Because I want to check first. Otherwise, I have a cop out with the senior thesis thing.
You may share whatever you would like.
All right, so I guess a great way to introduce this was earlier today, and there's a bunch of us from different classes, and not necessarily, some 2006, 2019. I'm the only one from 2013. Some of my friends were busy, so I couldn't quite get them to come. And Mr. Grass made the comment like, "Hey, let's try to mix it up so no one's sitting by themselves." And I'm like, that wouldn't be the first time. Yeah, so I had a couple friends, and it really is like the few friends that really make all the difference, because there were a couple times here where, I just got to sit by myself. And, this is actually kind of fun. It's kind of funny almost looking back, because you'd think that sitting by yourself would be the worst thing. But some people here are really nice, and that's great. So they come and they want to talk, but you just don't really feel like being with anyone. So you're not really responsive, and there's not much they can do. So then they just have their own conversation around you. So you get to experience being alone while technically being surrounded by other people, which is all kinds of not fun. And, bring in the standard. I have an honest opinion that, at some point during high school, it's the period when you're growing and developing, you will probably face some, that idea of suicide will probably come up, at least on the periphery, a little bit. I think that's relatively normal. If it doesn't happen, that's awesome, but you're not alone if that happens. I just want that to be perfectly clear. There's just stuff we don't talk about all that often. Also, I chose Moby Dick for my senior thesis, and that was a mistake. I don't know why I thought that would be a good book, but it just horrible. There's a sentence in chapter 42. It's called "The Whiteness of the Whale." It is 3 paragraphs long. It's 17 run-on statements, and it's just talking about the particular kind of white that the whale is. I don't know. So, anyways, yeah. I didn't want to end on a super dark note, but yeah. So don't read Moby Dick. 1984 was pretty good, though, from what my classmate Levi said. So that's a good one to do. That one's also dark, but at least it's not confusingly hard to read and what's even happening. So there you go.
I'd like for each of you to answer this question. If you could go back and redo high school, what are 1 or 2 things that you would consider doing differently?
Order?
Bill, you want to start that?
Okay, sure. So I'm going to go with if I had to do it over again, I feel like changing specific things is cheating. So if you're going to apply some lesson learned from the future, it has to be a rule that you can apply. And ideally the rule is something that other people can use too. So my advice to pass to me would be do your best. And I'm intentionally using that phrase because younger me did not like this phrase. It didn't really make any sense. After all, as long as I'm passing classes and putting enough effort in, that's good enough, right? I've met the qualification. I can save extra energy to put towards my own interests or study or playing games or whatever. But doing your best is the kind of rule that doesn't make sense until you come across enough things in life where you recognize that, okay, so everyone here takes classes and there's a clear point where, you get a high enough score, you pass, right? That's very well written. It's usually in the syllabus. Does that make sense, right? Okay. life doesn't always work like that, and you rarely know where the passing threshold is beforehand. And even in high school and in college, this happens every now and then. I would have graduated with an honors diploma had I not known, or had I known that I was still technically qualified for one. Basically, I gave up before when I thought I had lost it, but I hadn't yet. But because I gave up, I then didn't get it. And that's just a cute, simple example of something that would happen again and again and again and again until I finally put it together and put all this together like 5 minutes ago, right over there. Doing your best is a valid strategy for tackling life's challenges because most of the time you don't know what's coming ahead. So if you always do your best, you can never regret it because you did your best. And okay, so what if you passed a little higher than you needed to? You passed, so that's way better than the alternative. And it's a wide scoping thing. So, I get it if you're a coaster, I don't have to study for this final. I was one of those kids too, and just refused to study for finals. I paid attention in class. That's all I should need, right? Please study for finals, especially in college. You need to. But yeah, there you go. Do your best.
So mine has to do with my spiritual walk. I was learning and growing and all these things in high school, and there was a couple sin issues in my life that I didn't deal with in high school. And they affected me in college, and they continued to affect me after college. And I wish that I had listened to all of the counsel and the preaching and the teaching and the admonition of my parents and teachers and pastors, and actually repented of those sins earlier. It would have, changed obviously my life now. But I wish that I would have listened to all of the good things and all of the admonitions that I heard. And just dealt with the sin earlier. Because if there's sin in your life, that directly affects, of course, your relationship with Jesus, but also your relationship with all of your friends and your family. And it negatively affects that in a really, really big way. So I wish I would have repented earlier.
I wish I would have tried harder at more things. So, I was always really worried about being embarrassed, so I didn't try out for plays. I didn't try out for things that I probably would have been really good at. I'm a pretty dramatic person, but I was too worried about failing, and so I just didn't do it. I let the people that we knew were good at things do them, and then I didn't do it. And now I'm like, oh man, I would have been so good at that. I wish I would have done that. And now it's like, I'm 35 years old. What can I do? I'm busy with my kids. I can't do that stuff anymore. But when I was in high school, it would have been a perfect time to do that stuff. And I just didn't do it. And I wish I would have. And I can't go back. So now I got to wait for my kids to grow up when I have more time and I can maybe do civic stuff or something, oh man, I wish I would have done that. But I just didn't because I just let other people do it. So I wish I would have tried harder, at other and more kinds of things. I didn't try out for, I guess you guys call it chorale now. We called it FMT. I didn't do that till I was a senior. I could have done that all 4 years, but I didn't try out because I was too scared that I was going to mess up, that kind of stuff. The other thing is, this is something I didn't really know a lot about until I got older. I can't really say that I would have done it differently, but I wish I would have known more about the grace of God so that I wouldn't have worried so much about the externals. And I was always living in fear of doing the wrong thing. I'm sorry, I get emotional. But I just wish I would have known more about how good God is and how much he's done for us. Because I didn't, and I was always living in fear. So that's all.
I also wish, like Caleb, that I would have listened to my teachers more. I think in a Christian school, there's this impression that, oh, well, of course the teacher's saying these spiritual things like they kind of have to or whatever. But I think now looking back, you just see it's because it really is what's best for me. They're saying these things because they're actually true. And I really wish that I would have listened and taken to heart so much of the teaching that I didn't honestly listen to. But I do remember just those little things of teachers saying in the middle of whatever class that helped me to see, oh, this teacher they really love God. This is really part of their personal daily walk. They're not just doing this because they're a Christian school teacher. Like, this is real. This is the truth. And I also wish that I would have approached and viewed my friendships. I'm amazed that I had any friendships because I was just so self-centered, looking back now. But I wish I would have viewed my friendships of how can I please God with this friendship? How can I get to know this person? I very much viewed friendships as like, what can I get out of this? Like, how can this person, if they're cool, I want to be friends with them, so I'm getting something out of this. And just a self-centered view of friendships I wish I would have done differently.
All right, so when I was in school, back in high school, I really didn't try all that hard with my academics. Like, it's not that I wasn't like a bad student, just wasn't a good one. And I would say that I kept using the excuse of I had an IEP. Basically just means I'm really, really slow at reading, because for some reason when I read the next word ahead while I'm trying to comprehend the word behind it. So then, like, if I try to read something off to you guys, I'll like stutter a lot. And I just kept using that as my excuse of, oh, I'm just not that good at school. I'm just not smart enough. I wasn't applying myself, especially in the 9th and 10th grade. 11th and 12th, I did try harder, but I still wasn't giving it my all. And when I got to college, I had some I had some teachers that were really encouraging to me here at Faith, especially Lana Smith, for sure. She was, a super huge role model for me and all of that. But I also had, my wife, when we met each other, I really, really wanted to be better for her. So I started working really, really hard in college. And when I was at IUK, I graduated straight A's, summa cum laude, 3.99 GPA, regardless of, my IEP. So I just want to encourage you guys, no matter what your struggle is with, your education, or you struggle with reading, you struggle with math, you can do it.
I'm going to say two things, and I'm going to try and say them in short, little pithy phrases so that you can remember them. Get help and don't peck, okay? So first, get help. This place is a little different than like a normal school. You probably noticed that. And I think one of the big things that makes it different is your teachers actually care, right? I'm sure at other schools they care too, but I think the proportion of teachers who care is probably higher, and the amount that they care here is probably higher. And in high school, my biggest challenge was pornography, and I didn't get any help from anybody. I talked to some of the other guys in my class about it, and that was it. And usually it was sometimes it was, trying to fight together, and sometimes it was joking, hardy har stuff. So I really wish that I had gotten help. You guys, this church, this place has an internationally renowned counseling ministry. They can help. I wish I would have done that. And then the second thing is don't peck. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase pecking order, but it comes from chickens, and they have an actual pecking order in who gets to eat first and who gets to eat last, and it is enforced with brutality. That is why you find chickens that have all the feathers ripped off of them, and sometimes they'll peck the lowest chicken in the pecking order. They will peck it to death sometimes, okay? For each one of you, in your classes and in the whole school, there's a pecking order. And you know what it is, and everybody else knows what it is. And you all work together to enforce it. I did it, other people did it. Don't participate. It is awful.
Thanks for sharing. That was really, really helpful, really, really great. Would there be any questions that any of you would like to ask our alumni? We have time for one or two.
What is a belt?
Mr. Shale.
What's the funniest memory about Mr. Grass?
None. There's no memories. They're choosing their words wisely.
So I got to go on a couple trips with Mr. Grass, and he was also my basketball coach. But I just remember going around Washington, D.C. with Mr. Grass and a couple people from my class for a few days. And he was really excited, to be in D.C. with us. And he was all excited about the history, and I love history too. So it was just a really fun time, and we also got to share, like the 10-hour drive out there and back. So I won't give any specifics, but lots of good times.
That was with Pastor LeFew, I think, wasn't it?
It was you and Pastor LeFew.
Yeah, I remember that trip.
Yeah, I'm also going to talk you up too. During our Bible class my senior year, I thought it was just really, really impactful for me because I feel like, honestly, I wouldn't be a Christian if I didn't take that class. I had a friend that I used to bowl with all the time, and, we're still best of friends. And, he was an atheist at the time, and, he was really, hammering me with a bunch of questions that I didn't know the answer to. And typically, the next day, I would come back to his class, and we'd be talking about, what is truth and all this stuff. And and it was really valuable for me because I would always ask Mr. Grass, and we would discuss these questions in class. I was, all my questions were really just coming from him. They weren't coming from me. So I was asking a lot of questions because I honestly do feel like I wouldn't have been a Christian if it wasn't for his class. And because of the answers I was able to give back to him, he is now a Christian.
Praise God.
Mr. B, do you have any questions for, your name was brought up earlier.
Can I tell a story about Mr. B? About me and Mr. B? Mr. B and I?
Sure.
He was substituting, which is the worst, in some class. Not Mr. B substituting, but substituting in general is the worst. And so he was subbing in this class. It was like a study hall, or maybe it was, God forbid, maybe it was health for the men, for the guys. I don't know. He was substituting or something like that. And we were all, chitty, chitty, chatty, chatty, hardy, har, har. And he had enough. And so he said, all right, the next person that talks in this class gets thrown out. Well, it was me. And he goes, you, out! And he made me go in the hallway and stand with my nose against the wall. And I deserved it.
Was there somebody's hand up? Did you?
There was somebody over there.
Where? Who had their hand up? Uh-oh. What do you got, Todd?
What's the one line of dress code that you wish would go away the most?
When we were in school, you mean?
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
Well, so we couldn't wear jeans, we couldn't wear hoodies, no facial hair, no shorts, and we all laughed at the belt joke earlier because, at least for the guys, if you didn't have a belt, it was the end. It was bad news because guys would have their shirts untucked and then folded over their belt loops if they forgot to wear a belt that day, and we tried to sneak through the line. Usually it didn't work. Occasionally it did. But yeah, those were some of the changes, at least for the guys. I think the girls have other things that they remember less fondly.
Tell them about the tunnel.
We would have to walk through. So in the mornings, we all started in the gym. And then the girls, we would be dismissed by class. And the girls would go out the doors down by the Pepsi machines. And the boys would come out these doors down here. And all the female teachers would be waiting for us at those doors. All the male teachers would be waiting for the boys. And we walked through in single file lines, and all the female teachers would watch us and it was like a tunnel, and we would have to walk through, and they would check us over to make sure that our dress was appropriate. And if they had questions, we'd bend over to make sure that our shirts didn't come up too high, or we'd raise our arms to make sure that it was okay. And then if it wasn't, we called them the jumper of shame. or there was like a really hideous black and white striped polo in the office. Like it looked like a prison uniform that we'd have to wear. And you knew if you saw a girl wearing it that it was bad. And that's how it was. But yeah, we had the same as the boys. Like, we couldn't wear jeans, so you could wear like khakis or just like a dress shirt or something. It was like business casual, basically. And then on chapel days, you had to wear skirts. And in the winter, like October to like the end of March, you had to wear hose with your skirts. For a while, they went back and forth between like you couldn't wear things between your toes. Remember that? For 1 year, we couldn't wear completely flat shoes. Do you remember the sandals? There was 1 year like that because they were too much like flip-flops. That went back and forth.
So we've made some changes.
Yeah.
And we're thankful for the changes, right?
When I would drive past to take my kids to daycare and I would see you guys in jeans, I would gasp.
But you're not bitter?
No.
Or not jealous?
Yes, Mr. Johns?
I got a question. What is one thing for anybody that was like a personality thing you had, or something that got you maybe in trouble, or was a bad thing in high school, but that God has redeemed and is actually, you realize that this is like a good thing now once you've given it to Him or used it for His glory?
I feel like you're aiming for something.
I was definitely thinking of you, but that's okay.
Are you for all of us? Or?
Yeah, for anybody.
So I was a very high achieving student in high school, and I was very proud of that. I was always the student raising my hand first for all the questions. It was so bad that some teachers would purposely ignore me because I was doing it so much. And I took great pride in the fact, that I was such a good student. And I feel like after high school, through college, and now, God has shown me that He actually gave me all of this knowledge and leadership that I can actually use it to help other people. And I shouldn't actually think that I'm really awesome because I have all this stuff, I'm the way I am because God made me that way, but He actually made me that way to help others, to help lead other people, and to guide them toward truth.
Good job. Anyone else? Brittany?
Oh, well, she gave me the microphone.
Oh.
Well, I was the chatty one in school. I got a lot of demerits. I just went to dinner with 5 girls from my class the other night. And we talked about that a little bit, about how I always knew how many demerits I could get before I would get in trouble for talking too much. Anyway, yes, I had a tendency to talk too much in school, but that has actually been a good thing because I'm not afraid to talk to people. Also not afraid of public speaking, and God has used that. I don't really know where I'm supposed to go with that, Mr. Johns. However, I have learned my lesson with that a little bit, and yes, God has redeemed that. I would say I was going to use that actually as something that I wish I would have learned in high school. I wish I would have learned how to keep my mouth shut, because I have had to learn that lesson the hard way a little bit. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say.
That was good. That was good. All right, I think we need to start wrapping some things up. Can we give our alumni guests a round of applause? Great job. Thank you so much. Some of you on the spot. Way to go. Way to respond. So high school students at this time, we'll let you head on back to class. Alumni, just hang out here, and then we'll take our tour here in a little bit. Thank you. Have a great day.